Hey guys, how's it going? Today I wanted to speak about the subject of how do you talk to people when you have nothing to say? Well, kind of like what I'm doing right now. No, seriously. The thing is, most of the time in conversations, and this is actually why, one of the reasons why I'm doing these vlogs in some way is that sometimes I'm too much of an introvert and I'm trying to become a better speaker. And what I found is that if you basically listen to people and don't think so much about, gosh, what do I need to talk about? What do I need to talk about? You usually have a topic of conversation to speak about. So let's say you're at a party and you're just meeting a new person. There's always the regular small talk that can be done, which is fine. But at the same time, if you really listen to the person after the formal introduction and all that, you're usually able to find a subject in common that you can speak about. And usually the best thing to do when you found that subject in common is to ask them a question. Let them speak. Let them talk about whatever subject that they're talking about, because this is probably what they basically interest them, because you basically found that subject in common. And once they stop speaking, well, try to listen again to what they were saying in those previous sentences before they stopped talking, and you're able to ask another question. Does that make sense? So the hardest part about conversations is not actually the talking part or the finding another subject to talk about. It's more about the listening to the person. And if you do listen enough, you are usually able to keep on conversing with that person for a very long time, except if it's really, really a subject that bores you, and then you're not good for politics or good for the entertainment business, because you have to be able to do that. And I think that a lot of leaders and stuff like that, once again, they're not really necessarily very good with anything that has to do with whatever tech they're trying to do. Like Steve Jobs, I don't think he was necessarily a great programmer or programmer at all, and he wasn't necessarily a designer, but he was able to listen to people, and he was able to convey his vision to these people and make something that was something he understood and thought that was cool, and make other people make that thing, if that makes sense. So it's in the same vein really as what I'm saying with conversations, because for me the small talk has always been the most difficult for a very long time. But then when I started trying to listen to people, I usually started getting much further in the conversations, because you can't just meet somebody and ask them about the meaning of life. I mean, depending on the person, but most of the time I think people will want to do chit chat and stuff like that. So I think another thing is to know is obviously have at least some form of pop culture in your vocabulary, just so at least you can kind of speak to people who might not have usually the deepest of conversations. But in the essence, the thing is that there's always something to talk about in some way, because even though we're all different and we may not know each other and stuff like that, there's so many billions of people on earth that it's impossible to know everyone. And of course there's language barriers, etc., etc., etc. But the thing is that no matter what, we are intrinsically pretty similar, one person to the other. We're literally like breathing the same air. We are drinking water. We need to eat. We need to go to the toilet. We get sick. We are born, and as well as being born, inevitably, if you live, you have to die too. So no matter how much you think you don't have something in common with someone, you actually do have more than you think. Everybody has a mother that they were born from. Everybody has the want of at least having safety in their living location, be it their hut, be it their house, be it whatever it is. We have necessities that make us, just the fact that we're mammals and humans and stuff like that, and living on this earth, we have much more in common than you think. Unfortunately, the sad part of that is that a lot of times people kind of tend to forget. And also, if you have a certain status in life and stuff like that, people think that they're entitled and they can become rude, and they may not want to talk, converse, or they might think that you're better, that they're better than you are, stuff like that. But hey, this guy I can meet on the street might look like a homeless guy, but then maybe he's the biggest genius I've ever met. I don't know. So that's why it's always kind of interesting to take interest in other people's stories in some way, because everybody has a story, and if you really go deep down and you manage to go beyond those layers of whatever is protecting them, you can usually find a lot in common with every single being on this earth. So there's always something to talk about. There really is. And unless that person doesn't want to communicate or is awkward too in communication, then you might have to do a little bit of leading. But I've noticed that the best conversationalists are the people who don't do too much of the talking, but are basically the people who know how to listen. And if they know how to listen, they will know how to talk and how to speak and how to respond to whatever that person is talking to them about. So that's basically what it is. And for people who have trouble conversing, I just say try to have some little chit chat with somebody at the cash register or somebody you meet in the street, and start from there. Make it a short conversation, even if it's a minute or two, and I think before you know it, you'll be able to converse at more stressful situations, such as parties and bars and places where you meet a lot of people. So just be friendly, listen, and you'll be surprised. Maybe you'll be able to even make more friends, and you'll actually see that your social awkwardness is not that awkward, and that everybody has their little line of defense. But once you manage to pass through it, we have much more in common with one another than we even could have ever imagined. And that makes it also sad sometimes, because we all live so separate, but yet we basically have so much in common, and we could have literally had a sort of society where everybody is basically helping each other, but it doesn't really happen this way. We're in a society where most of the time, at least in my building and in LA and stuff like that, I found that for some reason people don't even really know their neighbors that much. But it doesn't mean that you don't respect them. So that's what I have to say on the subject. Have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed my talk, and start talking to other people. You'll see you have stuff in common. Okay, have a great day. Bye.